we are less than a week away from the one-year mark of the Russia-Ukraine war. This as the Kremlin launched another deadly round of shelling in the country, killing several people in the eastern Donetsk region and also 3 in the southern Kherson region. We have our correspondent Shelby Wilder in Lviv with the very latest. Shelby, obviously it seems like the Russians are trying to step up their offensive. Give us a sense of what's going on there on the ground as we're just days away from that anniversary.
You're absolutely right. Well, it's great to be with you, Rita. Thanks for having me. To bring you up to date, the latest from Ukraine, as you mentioned, is that this week, Russia carried out more attacks on the country, killing and wounding numerous civilians. And these strikes took place across the country, from the east in Donetsk to the south in Kherson, central Ukraine, and even the west, where we are reporting from in the Lviv region. Critical infrastructure was hit. And we awoke this morning, spending our Saturday with air raid sirens sounding out and being told to seek shelter because incoming missiles have been launched from the Black Sea by Russia. Russia also launched balloons this week, which flew over Kyiv in apparent attempt to down Ukrainian munitions. And really what happened is that when these balloons appear on radar, they look like incoming missiles or drones, so it triggers Ukrainian air defense as they try to shoot down these targets. But ultimately that's Russia's goal because they are wanting to deplete Ukrainian stockpiles. In other news, the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky spoke at the Munich Security Conference yesterday. He addressed global leaders in a speech, and he really just expressed the need for speed in delivering military aid and equipment to Ukraine. He said that the speed was essential for saving lives. He also continued to lobby for his country's admission to the EU and to NATO. In other news we are following, there was an explosive report that was published this week by the Conflict Observatory. This is an American NGO. What they found in their report is that over 6,000 Ukrainian children have been held in Russian camps at one point or another since the full-scale invasion began almost 1 year ago. Now, these 43 Russian camps stretch from Ukraine's Russian-occupied Crimea, across mainland Russia, and to Siberia. The apparent goal of these camps is to relocate and re-educate Ukrainian children, trying to make them Russian. These children range in age from just mere months to up to 17 years. And what Russia is trying to do is to strip these Ukrainian children of their identity, their culture, and their history. And the Yale Humanitarian Research Lab, which helped compile this data, found that this sprawling operation was being directed by the highest levels of the Kremlin. Now, we heard the U.S. State Department speak about this matter this week in a briefing, and they ultimately said that Russia's actions not only breach the Geneva Convention, but they also are a horrific war crime. With that, Rita, that is the latest from Ukraine, and I'm handing it back over to you in the studio.
Wow, very powerful. Shelby, thank you very much, and great reporting there. We always love having you on. Thank you so much. And everybody now, let's bring in Ukrainian Parliament member Alexey Goncharenko.
Thank you so much.
Alexey, you know, it's so great to see you. You and I spoke, I remember, literally days after the war was launched. Here it is a year later. It's astounding, the courage of the Ukrainian people. How do you feel this year has fared, and where do you think you're at right now?
Yeah, like I was told by one American senator, you can purchase weaponry, you can purchase ammunition. The only thing you can't purchase is the courage for resilience, and Ukrainian people showed during this year to the whole world that they are ready to fight for their country, that they are ready to sacrifice their lives, that this is not just a war for independence for Ukraine, but that is also very important. But also this is the war for our global and common values, just stopping the dictatorships, showing that it's not the way how everything, the world politics should go, by forceful change of the borders and by such brutal attacks and awful atrocities, which you already mentioned. Today, in Munich Security Conference, there was a speech of Vice President Kamala Harris, and she said that as a former prosecutor, she can say definitely that Russia committed atrocities and crimes against humanity in Ukraine, and they should be responsible for this. And what you told about Ukrainian children, it's one of the most awful, the worst war crimes, and that is the part of what is called genocide. That's what Russia is doing.
Yeah, it's amazing to hear about those children in the 43 camps that our Shelby Wilder was just talking about. You know, there were reports also that Russia has been deploying 93% of its army in Ukraine, 97% rather, I'm sorry, but it's obviously still struggling to advance. I mean, that's close to 100%. Do you think that Ukraine has a chance to take it down? And are you astounded at how much of the Russian forces have come in there, and yet here you are a year later?
You know, if Russia even will use 197% of what they have, Ukraine will stand, because our moral is uncomparable to Russia. We know what we are fighting for. We're not fighting for Tsar, for president, for some tyrann. We're fighting just for our homes, for our land, for our families. We know that if Russia will take Ukraine, they will just kill all of us and take our children to make from them Russians. That's why we don't have any other option than to fight, and that's why I'm absolutely sure we will win. The only question is when, and it depends from the weaponry supply. We can win this war quickly if we would receive long-range missiles, fighter jets, other stuff very quickly. And I want to tell you, I just met with Mitch McConnell, leader of Republicans in the Senate, with Chairman McCall, head of Foreign Affairs Committee in the House of Representatives. And they are so strong in their position in support of Ukraine, saying that, one of the theses was that our fathers stopped Nazism 80 years ago. It's our duty to stop Nazism today. And I think with such support, and they're saying that they want to see that the current administration should do more and quicker in support of our country and giving more weaponry, the most important, to give us a possibility to finish this war quite quickly. Because yes, the good news after 1 year is that Russian plan failed. They did not take Kiev or Odessa or Kharkiv. But the bad news, that is, the war still continues. We wanted to finish as quickly as possible. But we need just one thing, weaponry.
Where do you see this going also, Alexey? Do you ever see that there might be peace talks or some sort of discussion with Putin and Zelensky? Do you ever see that happening?
You know, the problem is not negotiations themselves. The problem is what will be the subject of negotiations. So if to speak about Russia retreating from Ukraine, we are ready for this today. We are ready for this any moment. If Putin wants to have negotiations about Ukraine giving up its territories, we will never go for such negotiations. It's important not just only for us, it's important for the whole world. Because even if 1 inch of Ukrainian territory will be taken by Russia, it will mean that international law doesn't work. That you can take, bigger country can attack smaller one, take a part of its territory, and that's all. That will be the worst possible message to the world, especially after Ukraine 30 years ago voluntarily, for the first time in human history, gave up nuclear weaponry. Under the guarantees of the United States, United Kingdom, and funny Russia, we understand what we can do with their guarantees. Sorry, just to go to the toilet with them. But it would be the worst possible scenario and message to the world if they can change borders like this.
We're losing you a little bit there, Alexey, but we are so honored to have you here all the way from Ukraine. And it's really great to see you here. I hear it is a year later, and the world has just been in awe of the courage of the Ukrainian people. It's great to have you here, Alexey.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And
We're less than a week away from 1 year since Russia invaded Ukraine. It is now estimated that more than 60,000 people have died in the conflict. Now, while Russia is continuing to focus its most recent objective on the eastern Ukrainian city of Bakhmut, the Kremlin has also been launching attacks in the Donetsk area. Our correspondent Shelby Wilder is live in Lviv with the latest. Shelby.
Hi, it's great to be with you. Good morning. Well, to bring you up to date on the latest Russian attacks this week, killed and wounded numerous civilians across the country. These strikes occurred in various regions from the east of Ukraine in Donetsk to Kherson in the south of Ukraine, central Ukraine, and even here in the west of Ukraine, where I am reporting from in the Lviv region, missiles hit critical infrastructure. And, you know, we woke up this morning spending our Saturday with the sound of air raid sirens calling out. We were told to seek shelter, and that's because Russia had launched more missiles from the Black Sea. Separately this week, Russia also launched balloons which briefly flew over Kyiv before they were shot down. And the sort of target for this was that Russia is hoping to deplete Ukrainian stockpiles. The reason for that is when these balloons appear on Ukrainian radars, they look like incoming missiles or drones. So it triggers Ukrainian air defense as they try to take down these targets. But again, that is what Russia is hoping for as they aim to waste Ukrainian missiles. Now, separately, the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky spoke at the Munich Security Conference yesterday. He joined via a video link and he addressed global leaders, and he really just stressed the need for not only fast decision making, but also the delivery of military equipment and aid to Ukraine. He said that speed was essential for saving lives. He also said that there was no other alternative in this war but Ukrainian victory, and he continues to lobby for his country's admission to the EU and NATO. This is just some of the latest news from Ukraine, and I'm turning it back over to you.
Thank you so much, Shelby. We appreciate that excellent report. Thank you. The conflict in Ukraine is the largest ground war in Europe since World War II, and to provide her perspective on the latest on the war as we head toward that anniversary, we welcome the Ukrainian Member of Parliament, Kira Rudik. Kira, always good to see you, and we appreciate you being here. That one-year mark of the war is February 24th, it's coming up next week. As you look around, as you talk to people, as you talk to your constituents, your folks have been through so much. How will they mark this sober anniversary?
Hello, Tom. Thank you so much for having me. We will have a national prayer for everyone who died at this terrible war, and to support our troops, brave men and women who are fighting at the front. It's not time to celebrate that we are still around, but it is time to use the hope that we have as our fuel. We also will be spreading gratefulness to everybody who supported us through this path. Look at how far we've come and how incredibly supportive the world has been, and how things changed during this year. At the very beginning, nobody actually believed that we will stand for like a week or so. And then things started changing more and more. Nobody believed that we are capable of a counteroffense. And definitely nobody believed that we will be able to take the city of Kherson back. So right now, we are using all those facts to say, believe that we will win this war. Please support us, not on the path of standing and fighting, but also on the path of winning, actually winning the war, liberating our country.
Kira, there are reports, including one out of the UK, that Russia has deployed some 97% of its army in Ukraine, but is still struggling, as you point out, to advance. What do you think the next phase of this war is, as you and your colleagues in Parliament see it?
They will try to win the time and exhaust their allies' confidence in our victory, and also exhaust Ukraine's ability. So we need to make sure that we will not allow them to do that. So Russia is ready for a long-term war. We do not have this time. We cannot have another 3, 4, 5 years of fighting and having our people struggle. So this is why we will need to gather and accumulate all our forces and hit them back, and throw them away from our territories, from our country. This is what our plan is. It's very open, and we are asking all our allies to join us on this plan.
Yeah, Putin has been threatening another escalation of the war as it enters its second year. Are you starting to see evidence of that in the changes in intensity or tactics from the Russians, or is that more posturing coming out of the Kremlin?
Now we see that their attacks increased in the eastern parts of our country. However, what Putin is doing, something that Soviets used to do. They're using people as battlefield meat, sometimes killing over 1,000 people a day, just to fight for things that have no meaning for them, just to show and use in their propaganda that they are doing something, that they are trying to win. Look, Putin did not have a battlefield victory since probably October. So right now he is desperately trying to do something. And he's using and not sparing no lives of his people. We cannot do that, and we will never do that. We have to be smarter. We have to be more modern, using more sophisticated weapons. And this is what the fight is about. It's the past is fighting with the future.
Yeah. All right. We're going to have to leave it there because we're out of time. But we will be covering the anniversary here extensively at Newsmax next week. And we always appreciate your time and perspective. Ukrainian Parliament member Rudik, thank you so much.
Thank you, and glory to Ukraine.